Welcome to Tide Talks. I want to get this out of the way first. It's presented by RWJ Barnabas Health, the official healthcare provider of Princeton Athletics. I am your host, Crista Samaras, member of the class, the great class of 1999, and a former women's lacrosse player. And this Tide Talks is a monthly interview series as part of the celebration of 50 years of women's athletics at Princeton. I am pumped today to talk to Natalie Tung, class of 2018, an English major who has done so many incredible things, but she also played 4 years of squash at Princeton. Natalie is the co-founder and executive director of Homeworks, and I'll let you talk about that in a second, Natalie, but I wanted to make sure that everybody knew you also won the Art Lane Class of 34 award. I too won that in the very first year. As I was researching you, I went back and I said, "Oh my God, I won too!" And that, just for everybody out there, is recognizing the athletic, the athlete who selflessly contributes to sport and society. You were such a big entrepreneur student. It was part of the whole experience at Princeton, and I want to get into talking that. And I will name one more award that you got because it leads into my first question. You got the A. James Fisher Junior Memorial Prize, which was awarded by the Pace Center for Civic Engagement, and it's for the Princeton senior who demonstrates an entrepreneurial spirit, exudes a zest for life, and enthusiastically builds community at Princeton. Does that describe you, Natalie?
I don't know. I mean, first of all, thank you so much for that introduction. I think I'm someone that I thrive when I'm in community with others, because that's how I learn. That's how I feel most comfortable. And I think especially even just being on the team at Princeton, I was always with my tribe, and I just felt more confident, felt more powerful when I had other people, who had my back. And so, yeah, I guess, I don't know, I do love building community, and that's something that I'm still doing today.
Yeah, and tell us about what Homeworks does.
Yeah, definitely. So I am the co-founder and executive director of Homeworks, and basically what Homeworks is we're an after-school residential program for high school girls in Trenton, New Jersey. From Sunday nights to Friday mornings, our girls actually stay overnight in our dorm, and then they come we do programming with them, focused on academics, life skills, civic engagement, woman empowerment. We bring them to and from school every day, and then they eat a family style meal with us, stay overnight, and then go home on the weekends. But what we're really trying to do is create a space for specifically our Black and brown girls to reclaim power over their identities, over their cultures, their experiences, and just see themselves as the beautiful, powerful, amazing girls that they are.
And how is it going? Like, what's the impact that you can see? What's the impact that you can measure?
Yeah, definitely. I think specifically right now with COVID and everything that's going on, we are really lucky to still be able to run right now. And it's an adapted program. And what we're really proud of, we just the semester just ended, and right now in Trenton, it's 50-something% for their attendance rate, but we have a 94% attendance rate within our kids, and mostly because we are lucky enough to be able to provide, transportation for them to come to and from our school, our program, to do virtual learning. We've also seen one of our scholars, we're really proud of her. She started with an F at the beginning of the semester, and she raised it up to a B. And we're also just seeing a lot of social emotional growth with our kids. And so just very proud of our scholars and the work that they've been doing in our space.
So you were an English major, and you knew you wanted to be a teacher, as the story goes. And in your sophomore year, you took a particularly meaningful class, and that changed the course of what you were going to do for the next 2 years. Can you talk about your professor? Can you talk about the idea, and then ultimately the execution? And what does that look like on top of playing squash and being an English major?
Yeah, definitely. So I think coming into Princeton, I definitely knew I really wanted to be in education. I've always wanted to be a teacher, and that's something I hopefully, we'll still do at some point, because I love being in the classroom. But I did stumble upon this class. I wasn't supposed to take it, but it fit my schedule, and it was a social entrepreneurship class with Marty Johnson, who was he just, I think, stepped down. He was the former CEO of Aisles in Trenton, so a nonprofit. And it was there that I realized that, you know, I had always had this dream to replicate the experience that I had in boarding school. But, you know, maybe when I was way older, and Marty Johnson made me realize that I could do it now. And then he also gave me the tools to be able to understand, okay, what does it mean to start a nonprofit now? How can we get our insurance, our licensing, our staff, our programming, our house, you know, all these elements to come together in order to do it at that point in time. And so then as soon as we kind of got that, I, you know, was also on my journey to become a teacher and started to really know and love Trenton as just such an amazing community. And so with that, just became more and more determined. And yeah, I guess I didn't really think about it in terms of juggling everything, because it was more of, I really loved everything I did. I loved squash. I loved my team. I also loved building homeworks with our community. And I loved being at Princeton and being with my friends and, you know, and learning from them as well. So I didn't really see it as juggling, but more of just, yeah, doing everything that I was really passionate about.
And right now in your day to day, do you see yourself more as an educator or as an entrepreneur?
Yeah, I don't know. That's a good question. I guess I see myself as, I don't know if it's okay for me to say I'm an educator, because I have been in the classroom, but not too long. But at the same time, I don't see myself as an entrepreneur as well, because I'm just, again, doing what I love. And I see myself as someone who's like connecting resources and connecting people and building community with people.
I read that's how your coach would describe you as well from Princeton. You're like a great connector. Have you always been like that?
I don't know. I guess I really like people. I like being in community with people. And I think that's where I draw all my energy from, just being around people and being on a team, in a community. So, yeah.
Well, so let me ask you this. So you grew up in Hong Kong, and in third grade, you went to teach English outside of Hong Kong. Is that true? And then how do we go from there to you coming to the United States for boarding school?
Yeah. So actually, I grew up in Hong Kong. I repeated in third grade. And then, so I didn't have the best relationship with learning, was never really confident. And then when I was 11, I did start, I went to start tutoring and teaching and teaching English. And that's when I really fell in love with teaching and education and being around kids. And then fast forward to when I was 14, I had the opportunity and privilege to attend a boarding school, the Lawrence Hill School, which is right by Princeton. And that's when I think not only I learned the power of learning and how it can be such an amazing and empowering experience, but then also more importantly, living in a dorm full of 40 young women. And that just completely changed my life and made me really believe that when women come together, we really are so powerful. We can do anything when we're all together.
How did you learn how to love learning?
I think for the first time in terms of learning, I was really learning to learn, and it wasn't just like rote memorization, which was what was happening in Hong Kong, or it was kind of all of that pressure. There's a lot of testing in Hong Kong and everything. And I attended at first like a Chinese school, and I wasn't really good at Chinese. And so I failed a lot of my tests and classes. And so that was definitely, I think it really broke my confidence. But then coming to boarding school, where not only the class sizes were smaller, we were living with our teachers, living with our classmates, and having conversations about our classes outside of school. It really, I think, allowed me to connect the dots. And then I would say the second thing is just having classes where I could study Asian American lit, where I could study gender lit and understand and connect, like, what does it mean to be me as an Asian American woman, and connect it to the books I was reading. And that's probably why I became an English major too.
And so for the scholars that are part of Homeworks in Trenton, you said you were trying to replicate that experience that you had. Do you feel like the social emotional learning on top of the schooling, on top of the security and the community, that all of those things baked in help girls realize this?
100%. Yeah, I think that you need to have all of those components. I think without first of all, social emotional, like we learn even in teacher prep that is the basis for everything. You need to feel secure. You need to feel like you are being heard and you feel loved and affirmed in who you are as a person before you can even go into academics. And then even as a community and that routine and structure, I think that's super important, especially if, the way that our system is in the world, there's so many injustices, so many inequities that then lead to all the things that are going on. And so what we're trying to do is work with the parents and partner with them to be able to, I guess, provide a little bit more structure and stability, so that our kids can then focus on what they should be focusing on as teenage girls.
What's been the hardest thing or the scariest thing in building this?
I would say the hardest and scariest thing would probably be the uncertainty. I am someone that struggles with anxiety, and uncertainty is hard for me. And so I think over the years, just learning tools and strategies to be able to, I guess, sit with it and be okay with that. But then also second, team management and leadership and working with people. I think that's always, been, I think, amazing, but also challenging at times.
What about Princeton and your experience there? Maybe even particularly sports, like fuels you every day, or that you're cognizant of what Princeton and the opportunities to be at Princeton, playing sports and learning all these crazy, amazing things and be able to apply your passion for social impact. Where do you see that on a day-to-day basis in getting up and doing your days?
Yeah. I think when I was playing squash at Princeton, for me, it was definitely, I think, again, it comes back to community and the team, and that, like, if I wasn't showing up for practice, if I wasn't trying my best, and if I wasn't doing that, like, I was letting my team down. I was letting Gail down, who I absolutely love and respect so much. And then with that came the discipline. With that came, even on the worst days when I was, feeling really stressed and overwhelmed, and then maybe things were going on personally and all of that, like, and I didn't want to go to practice or didn't want to do what I wanted to do. I think the way that our team culture worked at the time was that, like, you show up no matter what, and you're doing this not only for yourself but for your teammates. And so I think it's similar here that, our whole team at Homeworks, we work to be able to, like, work with each other. We're lifting each other up and we're moving each other forward. And it's never about, like, the self. It's all about what are we doing, like, with our girls? What are we doing with our family, with our community, and within our team at Homework? So I think that would be kind of something similar, I guess, that I'm bringing forward.
Well, I can't thank you enough for being here and doing the work you're doing. As someone who works with girls myself, I couldn't agree with you more about the components that create a brave and bold and confident kid. So thank you for that. And it's just such a pleasure to meet you and to research you. And I can't wait to see what you do in the future. Speaking of, what's next for you?
Yeah, thank you so much. What's next? We're hopefully going to continue building up Homeworks and be able to not only eventually expand into Trenton to have 40 girls. Right now we have 10. But beyond that, we want to have chapters of Homeworks all over the country, all over the world, where we have communities of women coming together to not only work on pushing themselves forward, but also pushing their communities forward as well. And so thank you again for having me. I'm really grateful to be here. So excited to meet you and get to talk to you today.
Awesome. You're awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.